What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the sucker of satirical significance here, and we're back with episode 87, I believe, of the video game therapy series. Now, I'm going to start off this episode by potentially, and this is going to be actually a high barrier to cross, but potentially talk about the dumbest thing I've ever ranted about on this entire series, and that is hot dogs. Now, I don't mean to want to get into the specifics of hot dogs beyond that, but the conceptual idea of a hot dog is baffling to me. I mean, it's on some level, it's again, this might strike you as like a stand-up bit more than anything, but it's what is it? Ground up pork that's funneled into an edible condom and then boiled, and then we're eating that, and nonetheless, it's also it's foul as shit. Just everything about a hot dog seems like it's a joke of a food. Like it was some hilarious ploy by it's always the inventor's name is always something dumb too. It's Lord William Michael Dog. Was an attractive, hot looking man, and he worked at the condom factory, and then one quarter they were producing too many hot dogs, and he goes, "Oh boss, we've made." Or we've made too many condoms. We have a surplus of condoms. How can we make use of this surplus? Don't you know a guy at the pork factory? He goes, well, Mr. Dog, what do you have in mind? Well, I'm thinking if we took all the extra shit in there and we jammed it into our condoms and then boiled them, maybe Americans are dumb enough to eat them and enjoy them. And the boss is like, well, how lowly do you think of American diets? And then he pauses for a second and goes, you're probably right. Let's try it, Even worse than hot dogs themselves, because I actually like hot dogs. I feel like it's a propaganda thing that they're pretty good. I guess once you get past what they are or like why they were made in the first place, they're pretty good. But then, I don't know what first, if it's like a chicken or the egg thing, whether wiener dogs came before or after hot dogs, because the dog that resembles is a furry, sentient hot dog with legs. Is that what a wiener dog is? That also seems like even more of a cruel joke than the hot dog itself. Because the hot dog as a food could be seen as a cruel joke on like what are these people willing to eat. But the dog just seems like cruelty of life for what ultimately is a giant sick joke at the end of it. But I don't know, just the idea of a hot dog is hilarious. It's like a Depression era food, like on par with ice cereal, which is just ice water with a spoon in a bowl. You just eat the ice cubes instead of cereal because you're too broke to afford cereal itself. But I don't know, hot dogs is always something I was thinking about. I was like, who the fuck came up with hot dogs? And then why do we eat them? And like, why do I enjoy eating them? And they're like, not that it's funny, like, the big gay thing, but it's a phallus shaped food. And generally it's like, even like bananas are kind of a ruined fruit because people are like, oh, let's all watch, Rusty eat the banana. It's like, no, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Can I not just enjoy a fruit without it being sexual? What the hell? Hot dogs are just unabashedly sexual. And see, no one seems to, I don't know. It's an American pastime food. You go to a baseball game and hot dogs, it's insane. But I don't know. The philosophy behind hot dogs was hilarious to me on their origin. What on earth? What are we doing? It's what's going on? It's insane. Anyway, that was my incredibly stupid bits about hot dogs. There's probably a lot more to riff on that if I actually sat down and thought about it, but I won't, because that's not really the MO of this. I'm not going to give you scripted comedy. I'm going to give you comedy. I'm going to do it on accident, and then can always script it up and write it up later. But anyway, back to what what I'm more known for is the pointless philosophy talked about by somebody who's an idiot. So the idiot's version of philosophy. I was reading Nietzsche, and it was I've talked about before, but reading some of his. I wasn't really reading him actually. I was reading somebody else's analysis of his works. Or one work in particular was on the morality of genealogy, which is, you can look it up and read it yourself, but very interesting. It's kind of insane, actually. Just not only the content itself, but the writing style, because there's lots of quotes like very long quotes, and you can kind of get a sense of how he was feeling when he was writing it. It was almost like like Jackson Pollock energy while he was writing. It was a very emotional writing. It was not. He's not a very matter of fact writer. He was, he was kind of the Hitler kind of German through and through. Where he was very poignant about his emphasis, and was, I guess, it kind of bordered on propaganda in some sense. But the little nibble I came away from it that I thought was hilarious was that he kind of struck me as like the Donald Trump of philosophers. Because he was talking about. I mean, I'm not going to spoil the work itself. It was on genealogy, and it was um, you mentioned like a slave morality versus a master morality. There was all these differences between them, which in their own right is a very strange idea with this third party, which is like these priests who kind of had a slave morality, but were part of an aristocratic class. There's a whole thing. Anyway, he was talking about Socrates, and he was kind of connecting it all to this like every human has this innate will to power, and he's like, well, why? Socrates certainly didn't, wasn't interested in accruing as much power as possible. He was very humble by all kinds of means, and even mentioned in there that he most of them weren't married. Most philosophers aren't married because they kind of take this ascetic approach to life, where it's kind of rejecting a lot of I don't know, the desires and pleasures, kind of like the Buddhist aesthetic too. But Socrates found apparently I don't know, I can't validate this, the most annoying woman he could find to test his his patience, which is actually hilarious. I would imagine that would be kind of a more Diogenesian philosophy than Socrates, but Diogenes wouldn't even want to associate with any other person. But if you were to get married, I imagine it would be someone that would be only there to cause them more pain in some sense, to build their character or something. Anyway, he was like, well, why is certainly Socrates is not a lowly man because he didn't have this high drive or a will to power. I was like, well, he basically was like, well, look at Socrates. He's ugly as fuck. Like if I was that ugly, I'd spend all day like questioning the value of beauty too. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be worried about, I'm not worried about such material things of how I look, well, because you're ugly. That's why, it's like basically just calling out Cope on anyone. It's like, well, he's ugly. That's why he doesn't care, versus trying to make any rational argument as to why Socrates wouldn't care about, being, I guess, having political power, being in office. He wouldn't care about that. But it was only because he was ugly. So I don't know, it's funny because it struck me as a very Donald Trump-esque quote by Nietzsche. And he had other examples too. I don't want to spoil everything. So if you would like to, just read that yourself. It's not terribly long, but it is certainly it's probably in the tens of hours, and say like between 10 and 20 hours worth of reading. But very hilarious. I just thought it was Nietzsche's kind of the Trump of philosophers, because he also speaks in a similar. Obviously, he's much more let's say articulate. His prose is a lot more impressive from a literary standpoint. Trump's is kind of appealing to a different demographic, perhaps, but it's equally jarring and also equally kind of emotionally, striking. He's like, he's ugly, he's gay, they're both gay, that kind of like attitude towards certain things. And of course, it's phrased much different, but I just thought it was funny to picture Nietzsche as the Trump of philosophers. It's kind of hilarious. Um, Here's another thing I was thinking about when I was reading his work on, I guess, morality, because it's very much a work concerned with like social position, right? Where it's like you can only have like power only really matters, like power in an individual context. He kind of grouped into this priesthood or slave morality class where it didn't matter whether you had power over yourself. That wasn't power. Power was only what you could do, with other people, presumably, with whatever power you get. And this is of Nietzsche's work too. But I just thought that was interesting because it was very much, relevant to, I guess, the social dynamics. But power over oneself didn't count. That was, what he criticized, I guess Buddhists for, or would have criticized them for if he didn't explicitly. Um, but it also got me thinking about because I mean, a lot of philosophers had like heavy reverence for an individual power. And I was like, why is it that there's just so much emphasis on the individual? I mean, there's many, I guess, more cynical people, and I'll say set capital C cynical people, even comedians like Carlin even mentioned this, that groups of people even larger than one, just people even two, you begin to it begins to get uh, conformity begins to reign, or maybe not conformity, but certain, the amount of honesty you can be goes from, up to 100 to like up to 80, because you can't ever be 100% honest with another person in some sense. There's even with yourself, it's very difficult. And I'd say philosophers are as close as you're going to get to people who can be 100% honest with themselves, because that's really where the value is. But it got me thinking about this tangential idea in the book that I'm reading now, which I'm not really a huge fan of, but it's a mythical man month. But it spoke about conceptual integrity, and the idea being that with one person as the chief architect of a system, or the chief thinker in some sense, you can retain, again, up to 100% conceptual integrity of the system, or of whatever thing you're thinking about. You can maintain 100% honesty, or maintain 100% conceptual integrity. But the moment other people are involved, like if you have 5 people, designing or architecting a system, you lose kind of the one vision, right? And you all have to kind of share this like different version of the vision in your own head, because there's always differences between each person's perception, how they, like, even if these people are blood related or something, there's still always drop offs in this conceptual integrity, and in the case of philosophy, this honesty with the other parties involved. I think it's hard enough. I think it's a kind of a feat, I guess a lifetime feat, or maybe like an asymptotic feat of some sense, to be 100% honest with yourself, because that alone is, again, lifetime worthy of effort. But nonetheless, even to think that you're able to maintain a high degree of conceptual integrity with other people is kind of a ridiculously high bar, right? To expect them to be on the same page, and they're truly on the same page too. And again, I think if you're like, well, we're always on the same, it's like there's a degree of honesty that you're missing if you think otherwise in some sense. But it got me thinking about I think that's real power in individuality, is not that one person can accomplish more than anyone else, but one person can be on the closest to the same page with themselves, with one other person, which is themselves, which is, again, hard enough. But I think that's the real power of individuality. So if you have some kind of artistic vision or some kind, that's why you don't see artists that there's not artists that work together that well. It's like, I guess I'm thinking of a certain kind of artist, but like paintings and stuff. It wasn't Leonardo da Vinci and 3 other dudes painting. It was just him. It was one guy. That allows him to maintain 100% conceptual integrity of whatever the hell he's painting, right? It wasn't like he, had people quibbling over, what the Mona Lisa's eyes looked like. It was one person. There was no quibbling. It was all one vision. And, we can, spout corporate platitudes about maintaining a single vision, but it's impossible with 2 people. And it's laughable with any more than 2, right? To maintain like a singular vision of something that you consider art. Now, if you consider it something stupid, like, I don't know, if it's something very mathematical, like a bridge or something, and no one really cares how it looks, and as long as it works, as long as there's like boxes to check, then sure, you can have 10 people, be the conceptual designers of the bridge. But ultimately, especially in this Mythical Man book, it was for software systems, it was like the best systems don't have, you can't have 5 people all trying to be on the same page conceptually with one another. It needs to be kind of one master vision, one person. It's kind of like it should be run as a dictatorship and not a democracy. For many reasons, because as much as democracy is kind of this egalitarian idea that is very, very nice, everyone loves it, right? Because you don't want to be you be in a dictatorship where it's someone else who's a dumbass telling you what to do. We're like, oh, let's make it democratic. But in a lot of, I guess, thinking about projects, or especially like art, dictatorships are the way it should go. Now, maybe we should use a different word other than dictatorships, just to make it, feel nicer for people. But at the end of the day, it's a dictatorship. It's what it is. And now it's not political in nature. So if that's your inclination of that word, then that's on you. But regardless, some things do function better as dictatorships. I'm not saying countries do. But there's also, there was great periods of, I guess, human flourishing. I guess pre-electricity. back to Greco-Roman, where there was like maybe this benevolent dictator. I mean, Caesar was well loved, and there's also that kind of, I don't know, there is a lot of effectiveness even politically of dictatorships. Of course, there's bad ones that kind of that soil the soil for everybody. You know, like Machiavelli or Hitler or something. There's my Hitler reference, but still, there's still. I mean, Greco-Roman times there was a big streak of emperors. There was like 6 in a row that were beloved, and there was lots of flourishing. And of course, if they're not making boneheaded decisions, or if there's not ulterior motives, because that thing about the political landscape now is it's so interconnected and it's so large. There's no degree of conceptual integrity anywhere. So it's like if you're the dictator of a small tribe, and you personally knew everybody, and there was a lot of I don't know, there's a lot that you can do well in one person calling all the shots. That's why like startups or very small companies are structured dictatorships, and not a democracy. And those, I mean, a democratically structured startup would fail. More often. I mean, I don't see that working. Like you take 5 engineers with 5 wildly different ideas of this quote unquote innovative product, you're going to get a hodgepodge mess of something. You need one person who has like the vision. And yeah, of course, everyone you hope that person's an engineer and it's not an MBA person telling you how to build something. But they just structure like a dictatorship, and that's for good reason. It's not because it's the ultimate form of government, but it is effective in that small sense. But everything is so huge now. I mean, even reasoning by committee is kind of flawed. I mean, maybe some other entirely different framework uh, to make decisions at this scale, like a global scale, like truly global scale. Because we can speak about the Ottoman Empire or Alexander, whatever. You can bring up some historical examples, but the world has never been interconnected to the extent that it is now, even close. Like with the speed of communication is just not. It dwarfs every other time period. I mean, times and times over, such that there is no comparison between anything. There's not even a remote comparison between something that is, comparable. Which again, there's maybe a lot of hard, difficult questions to answer. And I think maintaining whatever revolutionary idea does come out, it needs to have a high degree of conceptual integrity for it to function properly. Which again can really be done in a large group. So I don't really know what that doesn't really. I'm not concluding anything from that. I just think I'm just riffing on conceptual integrity and its importance and how it seems to be dwindling away. Is nobody dictatorships in any sense, outside of, I guess, a startup are few and far between. You don't really find those anywhere. Where even if it's a bonehead calling the shots, at least it's at least his ship that we're going to go down on. Like a democratically run pirate ship wouldn't loot anything. So it's been all day bickering about what dumb direction to go, and then half the crew's pissed off because they voted in the other direction. It's like it's a joke. No, we just, even if we die, the captain was the guy. He told us to go this way. We're all in. I suppose. Like some teams are like that, right? Like sports teams. I mean, not like teams in a corporate sense, but some sports teams are structured that way. So, and that has a higher degree of conceptual integrity. And it's also easy. The concept behind what they're doing is easy. Like the sports team is just, we're here to win. There's nobody. It's like, oh, should we win or should we lose? There's no, let's vote on it. It's like, that's not how, no one does that. It's we're here to win. It's a very simple concept and what we want to do. And it's, we can disagree. We can democratically vote on whether the coach is making the right decisions. And I guess the board or the owners kind of do that by hiring and firing these guys. But at the end of the day, we're kind of listening to one guy, right? He tells you to go sit on the bench, you sit on the bench. That's kind of what it is. But that maintains a high degree of conceptual integrity and is, has the potential to be very, very high functioning. You see, good coaches can, it's not a democracy. It's run like a dictatorship, and that if they're good coaches, they win everything. I mean, I guess you could just put it on the players, but at the end of the day, the coaches still have an impact. There's, I don't need to defend that as my concept, but I'll move on to something else. Either way, I just think the idea of conceptual integrity is very, very interesting. Oh, let's see. Yeah, here's another, I guess, concept on life itself, I suppose. But um, I guess I talked about like the problem with like measuring or just being like, I guess happy with your life. And not in the sense that you should always be pissed off all the time or, be dejected. I don't mean that in any sense, but I mean, I guess being the most measurably happy by brain scan standards, it was just be hooked up to a morphine drip, and that would be all it is, right? Or, taking drugs all the time. That's not. But I think I guess when I would put in my a life well lived is being happy for the right reasons or the correct reasons or reasons that you think are virtuous. Like you can still have high dopamine and be doing something virtuous. It doesn't have to be painful, right? You don't have to be like being hooked up to a morphine drip is being happy for the wrong reasons. And of course, in my view, if your worldview is different, then whatever. But there's other ways of attaining that. It's like jerking off versus like I don't know, conception within marriage, or I don't know, whatever your value systems are. It is you can make your own judgments on when your brain is lighting up dopamine. Is that being happy for the right reasons or not? And especially like something I would look at. It's I guess maybe more metaphysical or philosophical. Is like I don't want money to be what makes me happy. Like if I get all, that's part of the reason I think I have been somewhat dejected in periods of my life is because I've been very concerned that money would be the thing that would make me happier, which I think is wrong. Now, obviously I'm talking to myself there. It's not like I have will against that. I don't want money to be what lights my brain up, but at the end of the day, if that's what it is, then that is something I'd be fighting against. So I'd be happy for what I would say is the wrong reasons, just because I think, I don't know, money as a concept is so voided and so like is deprived of anything virtuous. It so loosely represents virtue. I think you're just as likely to be virtuous in poverty than you would be with money. It's not like it's even like a 50-50% correlation between doing good things and having a lot of money or making money. So I don't even view it as neutral as like, oh, a necessary evil. Because people say that. It's like, well, I know I don't like money either, but it's a necessary evil. It's like, shut up. No, it isn't. Okay, it isn't. It's evil, and is it's not. It's an evil necessity. It's not a necessary evil, which are two. It's just a entirely different concept than a necessary evil. Still happy. You still clap your hands like a seal every time you get your stupid little paycheck, and you go waste on whatever. So don't talk to me about necessary evil. No, it's evil, but begrudgingly is apparently necessary to live and eat food. What a bunch of bullshit. Because I'm sure growing your own food is probably legal. If I plant a corn crop in my backyard, doesn't meet FDA standards of spraying it with piss water or whatever in the pesticides these days. So I'd be arrested and carted off for making illegal corn or something stupid. I don't even want to riff on that. That's stupid. Let's see here. I guess sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at my list here. The other stupid thing about, because I was talking about democracy earlier, I guess I might as well just take more dunks on that. I was thinking about like, we did everything democratically and we're only, this is hypothetical, of course. We were only allowed to drink one beverage. We would just elect Coca-Cola as like and like every rest of us would be like, who voted for Coke over water? It's like, you fucking kill these people. You have a world war over people that elected Coke as the, like the drink that everyone has to drink. If there's only one, of course. But that's like, you don't have to be in the majority of everything. Just because the majority agree with it doesn't mean it's good. Again, the majority of people would say that 25% body mass index is like normal and acceptable. And I think that is horrendous. And you look like shit, you probably feel like shit, and your brain is probably working at 25% of what it could be working if you weren't built like shit. So I don't care if that's what the majority says or what democracy. I don't fuck that. That's stupid. In the same way, it's like, oh, democracy elected Coke is our only beverage to drink from the rest of it. It's like, well, fuck them. I don't care. I'm not drinking Coke. I'm drinking water. So I just thought it was funny that would probably be something that I would have to be. So it's not that I'm always against the majority. I think that in some cases the majority is right, but to make it seem like the majority of the time the majority is right is wrong. Especially now, I think now more than ever the average man isn't as despicable as it has been ever. It's like I don't even think our society is capable of producing like I'll put kind of great men in quotes there. Of course, it can be women too. I'm not talking about just men in general, but talking about societies that produce great men, like even as a percentage or even just as an absolute, it'd be very difficult for like truly brilliant people to come out of society today, and they would be the ones that would be so anti, I guess not really anti-democracy in that sense, but they'd be so against the grain. Right? I don't think the grain, in terms of just democratically driven ideas and things, are what will be producing the great men and women of our generation. It won't be. It will be people that are like so heretical and antithetical to what the establishment stands for that, and people will use that as like justification for why the majority is good. It's like, no, I think people are actively fighting against it. Like, have you seen? I mean, even in older times, it was always people that were vehemently against it. Like Galileo was against the church, which was the prevailing ideology at that time. So I'm not saying that you have to be a contrarian to or be quote unquote one of these great men, but it's often those that are the ones that propel mankind forward. It's not like, and it's not to say against the average man too. I think there's a lot that the average person or the quote unquote sheep allows us to do as a larger part of society, but there's still, I don't think the great men are coming out of, state college and working the same job for 40 years. It's like they're often the ones, probably more likely to be a criminal that was, let out of jail and then made a living selling black market bananas or something. I don't know. Or hot dogs, who knows? Or selling wiener dogs. I don't even know. They're keeping that fucking thing alive. So, yeah, so I don't know. I guess speaking of ridiculous things, I was in an airport, and this perhaps it'd be up there on my list of the dumbest uses of technology I've ever seen, especially now. But I'm sure that will be a revolving door in terms of a placeholder for me. But I was in a airport and I saw this giant trash can with a TV strapped to the top of it, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" You go up to it and it's like, "Hi, I'm Oscar the trash sorter," and yeah, it is a smart machine learning powered AI trash can. And the way you're supposed to use it, which again, there's a giant 60-inch, probably a plasma 4K TV, telling you how to use this machine is that you're going to walk up to it. You're going to hold up an item up to its camera. Of course, it's recording you the whole time. And then it's going to tell you which bin to put it in. And of course, I watched this confused boomer go up to it with like a coffee cup or something. And it also, like, I guess to give it some credit, it was like, oh, if you're like, you have a cap, you can remove the cap and the cap goes in here and the bottle goes in here, which again is already kind of a big jump for someone to be kind of following right along with the screen. But of course, the guy walks up to it and shows it like a water bottle, and it's like, oh, water bottle, goes into the blue recycling bin. He kind of looks down and just like is confused and just kind of drops it into like the black part, which is the trash, like the landfill. And then, the screen lights up red and goes X, wrong bucket. And he just walks away. Like he didn't even see the animation of it saying X, wrong bucket. They're just so fucking hilarious that they probably spent, probably spent, I don't know, $5,000, the minimum. Probably even more than that. Because, if it's smart AI tech, $5,000 on a trash can with a camera recording the whole time, which again, the privacy implications of that are hilarious. If someone had, and even care, fine, if it's local, whatever, if you're in an airport, you could just plug in, you can hack it. I mean, it's right there, like a camera feed. I mean, I don't know, it'd have to be very robust secure, but I doubt that whatever startup produced that had any note of like, oh, what are we gonna worry about, the 8 hours of recorded footage we have at the airport here. Not to say the airport's private anyway, but it's just yet another pointless vector. But like the usage of what? Figuring out which trash can, it's like, problem isn't that people don't know what recycling is. It's like, if the problem was like people don't know that smoking is bad, or that eating Twinkies are bad, or that vaping is, it's like, people know. They're not like, yes, I'm sure there's 0.05% of the population is like, what? Twinkies are actually bad for you? No. No, everybody knows. Everyone knows what recycling is. They probably know it's good. Everyone knows they need to brush their teeth. You don't need to have this giant, information campaign of, oh, you need to brush your teeth. Otherwise, like, what? Everybody knows that. It's like they just don't do it. It's not the problem. The problem is not awareness. It's not the problem. Especially for trash, it's like you're just showing them. Like, wouldn't it have been smarter to have just one bin you could toss anything into, and then maybe this machine learning thing actually analyzed the trash and then it sorted itself, so that you're not still leaning on the person to make the right decision. Which again, they probably don't fucking care. Again, the boomer obviously like didn't care and wasn't. I mean, it's just so funny that they spent so much money on this, the dumbest use of technology ever. Oscar the trash sorter, which, what a fucking waste of time. I mean, oh my God. Human ingenuity went into that, to be, again, to not even make a difference in recycling. So stupid. Oh my God. Oh man. Here's the other thing about, I guess, the tech accelerationists is I honestly think that I bash on a lot of them, whether it be the CEOs or the workers or whoever. Really, I am very bashful of them. I'm not nice to them at all. But I don't think it's because they're stupid either. I think they know. Like, I think if I talk to somebody working on some cutting edge bullshit startup, and I'm sure they would probably be just as cynical or as jaded as me in terms of how they view humanity and what the direction is if people don't get their shit together. And again, I focus more of my energy on, more contemplative in myself, whereas they might, be more worried about their social standing or money or something. But I also think that a lot of the underlying philosophies do the same in terms of like kind of cynical undertones. Not that like, we're totally screwed. I don't think we're totally screwed either. I think it'll be more like waves, right? It'll be like a down trough, up trough, and there'll be periods of good and bad. It'll be all of that. It won't be. I'm not saying everything is shit forever and human race is extinct. I don't think we'll go extinct. We'll be fine. It'll just be a boom and bust. It'll be a few more boom and bust cycles before, we'll have a fall of Rome or something to that extent. Whether it be a world war or something. Ideally not nuclear, but either way, I think that a lot of these tech accelerationists that I've bashed on, I don't think they have much different of a viewpoint than me. I just think their viewpoint, like in terms of underlying philosophy, I think their viewpoint is that well, fuck these people, they're stupid. We should take their money, and I want their money. I don't even care. Like I might as well be a hedonist if like the whole thing's gonna fall apart. I don't care. I just want to. I fuck these people. I think that's kind of more than me. So I think I would agree with them on a lot of their like ideas, but I would disagree in the sense of what to do would be to, okay, well, fuck them. They're stupid. We should exploit them because it's their fault for being dumb, right? Whereas I'm like, well, I don't have to just go fuck people over for a living. That I don't, I won't, right? It's not like no one's forcing you to rinse people of their cash just because they deserve it because they're dumb. It's like that's not how. Nobody should think that way. And I think that's kind of that's where we would differ, in terms of like what we're doing with this like philosophy. Whereas I would say, well, I guess I can't control what they're doing. I'll take that stoic attitude and say, well, I'm going to do what I know and I think is right. And, if most people don't, then it is what it is, at that point. Whereas I wouldn't be like, well, I'm going to make a startup and then I'm going to fuck people over because they're stupid. So, I mean, I don't think they're that far. I don't think that like they don't know what they're doing. I think a lot of them would. Now, some of the more naive ones are just after the money or something. But I think a lot of the more intelligent ones are like, even I would even put some of the fraudsters in this category. Like Bankman-Fried. Yeah, I don't think he was dumb. I think he kind of knew what he was doing. He had the whole effective altruist thing, which I think is just it was a word that he got to put a big cover on what he was doing. I even think people like Sam Altman would probably have a similar philosophy in terms of how they view humanity. Now, of course, his interviews are like, well, you want to empower. It's like, dude, you're a piece of shit. Empower me, get out of my face. But I think if you, I guess, got him drunk or on truth serum or something, or if you could hear his internal monologue, if he was being more honest with himself, if he wasn't, to that extent removed of sociopathy, you would get a lot of the same, I guess, more cynical viewpoints on technology and humanity than I have. That's just my theory. I don't have any proof for that, but I don't think these people are stupid, right? I think they're plenty smart enough to know like what direction it's going in. Same with like people that work at Apple and Google. It's like, they see Apple's keynote. It's all these people like, we're going to change the way that we're going to democratize. Like that has never worked. Like, ever. I mean, it's just, it won't, like, you're not fooling anybody with this. Like, you're going to use this to spy on people, collect all their data, and then fuck them over with it. And you're just banking on, like, making it sound nice enough so that people will fall for it or just be forced into it, right? Because I think even as much as I want to like throw my phone away, I don't think that I can without like I think I make it very, very difficult on myself. But I think at some point I would stop being able to eat food and have a place to live if I didn't have a phone anymore. Or every single I at least have to have a burner because otherwise like I couldn't sign up for anything because it's like, oh, you have a required phone number. It's like I don't have a phone. It's like, well, you can't do that. You have to have one. It's like, well, says who? So, says Zuckerberg. So anyway, I'll move on to something else. Maybe jumping around a lot here. As speaking of booming industries, if I were a fraudster, um, I guess fraudster in the social sense, I suppose at an individual level, everyone's their own fraudster. They're defrauding themselves of the best version of themselves or something. I don't know. If I was more of the type of a Bankman Fried or whatever, I think catfishing or their versions of it are enormous industries. So like these surrogate AI girlfriends or whatever, that's going to be a huge industry. That would be one that because people, if you especially the dumber ones that lean into a lot of this technology, will be the first to anthropomorphize it. Which we've already the problem is bad enough that we've anthropomorphized technology to the extent that we have, because everything is like well, it's a Tamagotchi. Like Tamagotchis were kind of the beginning and the end of that, where we give human traits to a fucking robot, right? Or where somebody's World of Warcraft account gets deleted and they are, jumping off of a fourth-story building, right? Or their Bitcoin wallet gets, I mean, they're just subscribing way too much, not only like human anthropomorph, like value to things, but even just like value period to just stuff that isn't real. Like, your bank account balance is literally numbers on the screen. I'm not saying that, well, those numbers allow me to buy food and buy Cheerios or whatever or whatever else you buy. I don't know what the fuck you people buy with your money, but at the end of the day, there's no measure of your value as a human or I mean, and if it is, like, I think you need deep reassessment of what you think is valuable. And of course, this is where I kind of fall off the train with the money thing because many people think money is this supreme measure of value, but I guess I'll be the one standing when the financial system collapses and everyone's money is gone. It's like, where'd my money go? It's like, well, see, I never really placed that much value on it in the first place, so I don't really care. Even if I did have a bunch of money, what's the big deal? Really? Yeah, I mean, sure, it'd probably suck that we'd have to go back to the barter system and have to like scrounge together some stuff to trade, but I would not be the person jumping off the building because their bank account balance now says zero. It's just we've given so much just human traits to technology. So really the whole point is being that I think catfishing or I guess not even just scamming, but I think just using technology to be a ploy to be a fake human, whether that be romantic or personal relationships or whatever. Even like I even think something as dumb as like playing pool with an AI is one thing, right? You can't just play games, but I think let's say you had like an AI that would text you like a friend, oh, his name's Dylan, and you guys play pool together, right? He would like you could like tune his settings or something, and he would be an LLM that would just spit out whatever. But you'd make you feel like your friends. You're playing pool. You play pool against him, like the iPhone pool game or whatever. And he would have like dumb one-liner zingers or something he would say, before he would be a Nazi or try to suck your dick or something or whatever else would go wrong with this LLM power thing. But I think even having friends, as AI, but this whole industry of like fake AI stuff driven anthropomorphized technology where it's faking being human, I think is huge. So I mean the obvious ones are already like call centers and things, but like the AI girlfriends are going to be giant, AI friends are going to be giant, every kind of different version of that. And I don't think it'll be physical, but really anything that you can fool somebody into failing the Turing test. That's my problem with the Turing test. It's not a very high bar to cross. I mean, sure, it seemed high like in Alan Turing's day, but the guy's old as fuck. He's been dead for God knows. I'm so with the 1850s or something when he was alive or he was born. But like computers then or whatever was a computer, like you can fool a human. It's so easy. Like you go on Facebook, it's just billions of people that are fooled, completely by like the dumbest of Turing machines. It's not like we're not that smart. We're really not that clever. I even watched, I guess just to catch up on references so that I'm not totally out of the social loop. I watched Ex Machina, which I guess you can watch it. It's all right. But like, this person passed the Turing test. Who's this guy's a fucking loser? I mean, if you took somebody who's so blatantly unself-aware and naive and just this wide-eyed, like borderline autistic person with no friends, yeah, you're gonna pass it. You're gonna pass the Turing test. You could, I mean, it wouldn't. That's not a very high bar, right? Even just against other, I'm not even sure. I think that's why I think we need to really, I guess, dig deeper on maybe just this like mind-body problem of what the hell consciousness even is. Because I think even like anesthesiologists, like people that put people under, like with drugs and stuff, or like xenon gas or something. I don't even know what the anesthetics are, but I don't think those people. I don't think they entirely know how it works. I think we have like some vague ideas. Where it kind of goes in here and then it leaves after a few hours, and sometimes makes you laugh. It's like I think, but how does it turn off consciousness? Like maybe because you know how to stop blood flow and things that are more mechanical, but I don't think we haven't really mechanized consciousness. That's my really big beef with like this AGI thing, and I wrote about this in my blog. But it's not conscious. That's not conscious. Right? It's not consciousness at all. It's just fake language, which language is built on top of mutual understanding, and then mutual understanding is built on top of this awareness, which is then built on top of consciousness. Right? There's layers that we're not even close. And LLMs kind of just skip to the end and generate language that simulates understanding, but doesn't truly know. It's not truly aware. It doesn't have that conscious understanding. So I think we need to understand consciousness a lot better before we have any kind of sentience, right? I think people that think that we're close to sentience are fools, unless there's, research being done that I don't know of. It wouldn't be possible. But we're not close to this artificial sentience. Intelligence, again, maybe it's relative to the task at hand. Sure, like we have chess bots from a long time ago that are intelligent at playing chess, right? We have intelligent bots now that are intelligent at generating text. But that's not intelligence per se, right? It's one of our many facets of intelligence as humans, but we also take dumps. We do all kinds of stuff that, I'm not saying it's intelligent to take a dump, but there's lots of other forms of intelligence to different tasks that we can make machines to emulate, but the machines themselves can't habitually emulate. And I don't think I think kind of the neural network model is a limited model of the brain. I don't think the brain is just a giant neural network, and I don't really buy that. Again, this is my opinion. I think if you're a cognitive science or a philosopher, you might agree with me, but if you're a computer science SV tech bro, then you probably don't agree with me, and I don't care. But that's just my opinion. Is I think we're off base in terms of what consciousness is and what intelligence is. I don't think we're defining it well. That's kind of my big beef with a lot of the AI stuff. But I've actually wrote about that before, so I'm kind of just rehashing old arguments. But I don't know. Let's see here. Oh, this is a really dumb idea. FOSSDP. That's right. So I talked about catfishing being a big industry, but kind of the sister industry to catfishing is blackmail. That's right. Getting somebody to take a picture of their penis and then using that as leverage to extort them for money. So extortion really is probably a better word than blackmail. I don't know, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know the exact epistemological definitions of blackmail versus extortion, but whatever. Sextortion, we'll say. Taking somebody's dick pic and using it. There's an argument, and it's kind of a dumb one. we could take dick pics like ID pictures. You could just open source everyone's dick picture. In the same way you'd have you can validate someone's identity, and that way there's no more of that. You just get ahead of it. I mean, at a high level, it's kind of silly. It's like, what, you have a picture of my penis? Oh, it's like you have a picture of my leg. It's like, yeah, I cover up my leg, but I cover up my penis. It's a body part. It's not. And there's like some, I guess, religious sacristy. It's a little too rationalistic to think that it doesn't matter. But it's gonna be funny to in the same way you're not covering your face, and it's like it's not shameful to see your face. Whereas the penis is just all of a sudden this thing. But you just open source it. Everyone's it's all out there. There's no more. Nowadays, also clear up this whole small dick problems dating thing. Where it's like, oh, I don't want to talk to girls with a small penis. It's like, dude, everyone knows how big your penis is. No one cares. And the girl can look you up if she really wants to. And he's like, okay, too small, whatever. You know, I don't know. Who cares? It's just not like if my other problem with like this is totally tangential too, so I apologize. But actually, I shouldn't apologize. This is just myself anyway. But like a dude who's got a too small of a dick talk to a girl, you realize you don't shake their hand with your penis. Like you talk to them with your face and your body. Your penis is covered up, and then it's not even until it's like almost too late before she actually sees your penis. So what exactly are you concerned with here? I never really got that. It's like I don't. Maybe you're scared of talk. Like she's not going to know until it's probably too late for her at that point. Which at that point, then it's what you just kind of have awkward like. I mean, it's insane. It's funny to me that it's like that's what's holding you back. It's like you have such this withdrawal of confidence because of something that's not even visible, right? It's like having a mole on your ass. You doesn't even see it. And, I guess it's probably a little more than that because you have to use it or something, presumably again. But I don't know. You can just make up some religious reason or something. Or I guess if you're making good money scamming people, you can save up for FTM bottom surgery and that'll solve all your problems or something hilarious. Which is, I guess another good thing with all this technology, we'll have AI-powered robo-dicks of collecting data, big data about sexual intercourse, and then using that to inform a robotic penis with silicone testes. It's just so stupid, just this whole concept. But I think there'll also be a fair amount of. So I see interesting projects coming all the time. So it's not like I'm purely, cynical, bordering diabolical on all of the tech stuff. I think but it's just funny to think of all the dumb use cases that come out of this stuff. It's like back whenever the .com bubble and all these websites were just crap, but now it's AI stuff. But I don't know. It should be funny. Yeah, it'd be funny to open source everyone's dick pics, so there's no sextortion. Is kind of an empty industry at that point. Who cares? It's all out there. Of course, that's not going to get voted on anywhere. So see about that. So this is another dumb thing. It's like in movies or something. Not that I've been watching much movies. Actually, I have been watching more movies than I normally do. But they're always like, they meet some girl in the elevator. And it's like, what's your name? Well, my name's Emily. Oh, I'm Brad. And like they walk away. It's like you're never gonna see like there's a gajillion people. How are you gonna find some random person named Emily? It's like it's so inefficient. The engineering is like, why don't they just like share UUIDs? Which, if you're not familiar, UUIDs are universal unique identifiers, which is basically like if you're making an account system, you'll use UUIDs so that like everyone has their own unique like ID hash, pretty much, such that you can always identify a user even if they have the same name or same credentials or same information or same data really within your account system. But I was like, why don't they share UUIDs or like the very least like emails? So that way you can at least find this random person named Emily. It's like I met this person named Brad. Like you're just never gonna see like you're never gonna see them. Why even bother asking their name? It's like it's just as good as asking like what is asking what color their shirt is. It's like that doesn't. There's so many people wearing blue shirts. Like it's easy. You're never gonna find somebody just like that. And maybe like it made more sense when communities were smaller, or it's like, oh, the son of the print shop owner, Emily. It's like no, or Helen or whatever their names are back then. But it's like, yeah, why even share names at this day and age? It's like I think it's just inefficient, right? I guess people have already kind of transcended that. There's people, I've gotten asked for my Instagram tag a number of times, which I don't have. So I have to give my name or my email address. It'd be funny just to see how many you go pick up girls and you only have to you can only give them your email address. How many actually end up following through with that? Which I think at some point there's going to be this. That'll be respect. That'll be like a game sign. Back when the pendulum is swinging the other direction. But I don't know. Those names are just manifest, and we should start using UUIDs or at the very least emails or something. So, oh yeah, here's my last. Here's my last opinion on this. The news, social media, all the stuff that I obviously very outspokenly stand against. The way I conceptualize it in my brain now is just people screaming. Right? It's just people screaming. It's like I have the TV on where I work out right now, and how do you even keep up? It's like two were killed in a robbery. Oh, look at this child that won a spelling bee. Local doctor divorces wife and murders child. Oh, here's a dog doing a backflip. It's like, what the fuck? And it's like, and then you actually listen to the audio is just people shouting and talking about nothing. Like, it's just people screaming. So that's all it is. It's just what it is, people screaming. And it's just so much noise, so, like condensed, loud megaphone noise just drilled into your ear. And there's a funnel. And it's just so overstimulating. It's insane. I don't know how anyone even like calmly watches TV. It's just a roller coaster of noise and emotions at all times. How do you even keep up? Like, how do you digest? You know, local child dies of leukemia. And dog doing a backflip within the same breath. Like, how is that? How can you conceptualize those two in the same like mental space? You just can't. It's like, what the fuck? Just jumping between so many different hoops, and then it's ridiculous. The way I conceptualize it is just people screaming. Just turn on. It's just the whole time. It's just what the fuck. It's just how do you watch that? This is horrible. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just my mentality right now, but I don't know I don't know how you do it. It's too much for me now, which I think is good. I'm actually glad it's too much for me. So that means that I think I've tried to reset some of my more ape instincts, which I think are actually in this case is good. There's other ape instincts that I probably wouldn't recommend trying to to revitalize, but I think looking at social media or the television is this otherworldly megaphone of noise and just cacophony of crap. I think that is a healthy conceptualization of that specific technology. So I will that's the way I'm gonna run with it. That's the way it is. Anyway, I'm gonna cut it off there. Hopefully it's been time. Again, I don't have a timer on these anymore. It's reduced to one monitor. So anyway, hopefully that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.